I recently sailed on Royal Caribbean's Radiance of the Seas for a quick 4-night cruise, and as a bonus, because I really booked this cruise primarily to just get back on that ship, it was, I think, a fairly inexpensive cruise and a good opportunity to get on a ship that I don't usually sail on and, just kind of cover another aspect of Royal Caribbean. But the bonus was I got to try out the new brunch option that Chops Grille rolled out. About a month or two ago, Royal Caribbean revealed they were going to start doing brunch at Chops Grille. And when I was on Utopia of the Seas, it wasn't available. That was back in April. You evidently need to have a sea day for it. So it doesn't replace lunch. There's still lunch going to be offered, but they're going to do brunch now as well. And let's face it, brunches, I think, is something that Royal Caribbean has never done extremely well. The mason jar is the best example of brunch being served on Royal Caribbean ships, but it's only on like 3 ships right now, and that's pretty limited. The main dining room rarely, occasionally does it, but it's just still the main dining room. So, Chops Grill, every ship, seems like an interesting opportunity. I wanted to try it out. My biggest question going into this was, how will this meal be substantially different than lunch at Chops Grill, and will it truly be something that is like a must kind of eat? Because when you look at any specialty restaurant, I don't care what it is, Chops, Izumi, 150 Central Park, you want to have food, I think, that draws you back. The kind of food that you're like, man, I'm willing to pay extra for it because it was that darn good. I certainly feel that way about the specialty restaurants I just mentioned, right? I mean, the fried cheesecake, the beef tenderloin for 2 at 150 Central Park, I'll have dreams about. Sushi, I mean, I can have that every single day, right? If Royal Caribbean's going to charge you money for a specialty restaurant, I'm not above that. I just want to make sure it's the kind of food that I really think about and yearn for, if you will. So I think that's at the core of any good experience. So I was curious what this would be. And certainly I had seen the menu beforehand because the menu had been posted already. So I booked it before my cruise began at $48 a person, which is pretty darn steep. And this is already where I raise an eyebrow. Now, I booked it because, listen, I wanted to try it out. It was for research, in the name of science, I was going to go for it. I was really surprised by a couple things. Number one, the price for brunch is $48 a person. The price for lunch is only $21 a person. I thought that's a huge price gap. But even more surprising is that if you had a dining package, brunch would not be fully included like lunch or dinner is. And that was really astounding to me. There would actually be a $30 surcharge. It even said that if you're in star class, it'd be a surcharge, which to me is bananas. No pun intended, because you can have bananas at brunch. But I just think that's just insane for a restaurant. That's not dinner is usually the most expensive meal, right? And brunch, while it is expansive, isn't dinner. I think it's more on the same level as lunch. So I don't know. I think this is someone at Royal Caribbean trying to test the market a little bit, seeing where the demand is, and then they'll probably change that in the future. But anyway, for what it's worth, I paid it. And I did this on the last day of the cruise. We had 2 sea days. Brunch was only offered on day 4 of the sailing. So I had no choice but to have it then. But there were a wide range of times. I think the earliest was about 10 a.m. and it went to about, 2 or so. I took 11:15, I believe, is the time. I figured I'd have time to go do something in the morning, wake up, do my stuff, a little bit of work, and then bam, head over and check out the restaurant. Now, this is held in Chops Grill, and Chops Grill on Radiance of the Seas is on deck 6. It is near the Schooner Bar, and it's a beautiful setup, by the way. I mean, great looking restaurant because it has great windows that look out to the ocean. And one of the advantages of having a daytime meal is you get to see the views out there, because at nighttime, you can't really see much out the windows because the light inside the restaurant, reflects off the glass. Anyway, it's a nice view out there. Now, when I walked in, I was one of 2 tables that were actually set. And I think in my duration of my meal, which wasn't that long, probably there for about 45 minutes or so, I was there and there was another couple that was seated before I got there. They finished their meal, and another couple who actually recognized me came in a little bit later. So far from a busy experience. Now, the first thing I noticed about the menu is it is giant. I mean, there are a lot of choices here. You start off with a beverage choice. 1 drink is included, which is either your choice of an Aperol Spritz, a Shirley Temple, or an espresso specialty coffee of some kind, like espresso cappuccino latte. You get 1 included, and then anything else beyond that costs extra. Some people pointed out to me that on land, when you do brunch, usually unlimited champagne or something like that is usually the norm. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of difference between land and sea. And for what it's worth, you can still book the Sip Tour brunch option, which provides a galley tour and unlimited champagne for that. Whatever. I mean, that's just, I'm not a big champagne fan, so it doesn't really affect me much, and I'm not looking to get loaded for brunch, but I do understand that's something that you would see that's different here than a brunch on land. Nonetheless, I'm here for the food. The drink's secondary. You're started off with assortment of baked goods. This was kind of, I think, one thing that I noticed, and I'm not sure if this is a Matt thing or this is like everybody. So they bring out this tray of treats, right? Croissants and muffins and danishes. I can guarantee you every single thing on there. Maybe one, actually, there was a donut that I hadn't seen before, but everything else, like, so 80% of what was on that plate that was served there was the sort of danishes and pastries you would find at either Cafe Promenade or Park Cafe or even the Windjammer. Like the cinnamon roll with the cream cheese frosting, my family loves that. That is straight out of Park Cafe, Cafe Latitudes, whatever you want to call it. So I was a little put off by that. Like, I don't think, especially restaurants, should be serving any food that you can get in a free restaurant somewhere else on the ship. But, I don't know if anyone else notices that or even cares about that. Might just be me. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. Next is starters. So starters are served family style, which basically just means that you get as much as you want, but they're going to bring it, they claim they're going to bring it out, like, family style usually means like you get like a platter of them to share among you at the table. Now, this is just me alone. So they brought me literally one. I don't know if I had had three people with me, we would have gotten three. Anyway, I ordered the avocado toast. Now, the avocado toast was nice. I liked it, except for the fact that the avocado was clearly out of a tube. Like, it wasn't sliced avocado. It was, I don't know what it is, but that stuff you get that's like pre-prepared, and I assume it comes out of a tube. It's a puree as opposed to clearly when avocado is sliced. And I think at a specialty restaurant, I would expect it to be sliced, because in the Windjammer, when they have avocado toast, it's out of the tube. So I kind of another like, well, okay. But the good news is the meal definitely got better as we moved into the main courses. There's brunch sweets, which is a choice of pancakes or waffles, and then there's hearty bowls. Now, for the sweets, I went for pancakes. I probably, in retrospect, I don't know why I didn't pick the waffle, but I went for pancakes, and I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, this was definitely freshly made, not like, here's 20 pancakes we made an hour ago. They were keeping under the warmer. You could tell because there was the griddle marks on the bottom of the pancake. It was fresh. It was really light and fluffy. I really liked this quite a bit. I was quite happy with my choice, in fact. And then for the bowls, I was thinking about it. There's a lot of different choices here, and I kind of hemmed and hawed about this. I went with the steak and eggs. I was like, I got to go with the steak at Chops Grille, so I kind of leaned towards that the most. Now, it's supposed to be topped with a fried egg. I was told by my waiter there would be no fried eggs because they had to use scrambled eggs instead. I didn't think about it at the time, but it's worth mentioning that also what happened the night before was there was a power outage on the ship. Somebody later on told me that they had to throw out all the eggs. I don't know if that's true or not, but for what it's worth, we had to substitute scrambled eggs instead of fried egg, which, by the way, for me, I'm okay with that. I don't like runny eggs, so not having a fried egg actually is an advantage for me. I thought about ordering the Chops Grille truffle burger, which I assume is the exact same thing off the lunch menu, just because I like, when I have brunch, I like having both lunch and breakfast together. The dichotomy of the two just stands out a little bit more for me. But at this point, I knew I was already ordering like avocado toast, pancakes, steak. I knew in my heart of hearts that I'm not as good as I once was, right? I can't, like, if I was 20 years ago, I could have eaten like half this menu, but I ain't there anymore. So I decided, all right, you know what? Gonna ease on off this and just go with the steak and eggs. But I would have liked to have tried the truffle burger. I'm gonna guess the Royal Crab Benedict would also be arguably the next popular option on the menu, but didn't get a chance to try that as well. For the desserts, once again, a la carte. You have a choice of a couple of different things. I mean, Cherry's Jubilee is probably what most people would pick. There's Floating Island, which is a silky meringue. There's Cherry's Jubilee and a chocolate brownie. Now, call me crazy. I don't like my wet food touching my dry food. Cherry's Jubilee is just too much wet food, and it's just not my thing at all. I'm sure meringue is great, but I went for the chocolate brownie. Figured it was a safe bet. Okay, so let's backtrack for a second here. They have the hearty bowls, steak and eggs. Steak came out filet. I mean, it's filet mignon. You can't go wrong with that. And I've had filet so many times at Chops. No disappointment here. In fact, again, I like the eggs. It was served with some sort of a sauce on the steak that I didn't love personally. I wish I could have known that. I would have said put it on the side or something like that, because it interfered with the eggs. I think the steak and the eggs alone are good enough. I don't need a sauce on it. But hey, listen, I enjoyed this quite a bit. For the sides, I forgot to mention there were a couple different choices of sides. I went for mashed potatoes. I figured, oh, Chops Grille, I'm going to get that. And also an arugula and Parmigiano lemon vinaigrette salad. The salad, I figured, was like my light option. Like, you want to, like, if you're going to go heavy with steak and mashed potatoes, you want something light just to kind of mix it up. And actually, I like this quite a bit. It reminded me a lot of the house salad at Giovanni's. So I was quite happy with that. I mean, I was already, like, totally full by the time it came out. But hey, it was a nice change. The mashed potatoes were mashed potatoes. I can't say much about that. So, it was good. The other disappointment here, the chocolate brownie. So, the chocolate brownie, as soon as I saw it, I knew with 1,000% certainty this was straight out of Park Cafe, because the chocolate brownie, how do I say this on the podcast? The texture of it reminds me of something else I thought was amusing if I was an immature teenager. And anyway, it caught my eye when I saw it at Park Cafe, and then they served me the exact same thing for dessert here. I clearly chose poorly. Perhaps the floating island or the Cherries Jubilee would have been a better choice overall. And, that's what it is. But again, this is another case of something that's included in the cruise elsewhere was being served as a upgraded item. Now, you could all say, Matt, listen, you got French fries on the menu. You can get French fries anywhere. And that's true of a lot of restaurants, including Chops. Even for dinner, you can get French fries. It's fair. I understand that a lot of things that I notice may not be what normal people notice. And there's also a lot of other things on the menu I didn't try. This will actually, for the purposes of this food review, would have been better if I had had 2 or 3 other people with me so we could have gotten a better cross selection of all the foods here. But I think Chops Grille Brunch has its pluses and it's had its minuses. But the food I don't think was bad at all. I enjoyed the food. My biggest thing is the cost. I think that for $48 and it's not included in the dining package it's not what it should be. Because again, as I mentioned, you can go to Chops Grill dinner and get it included with your dining package or pay just about the same price for it, quite frankly, pre-cruise for dinner. So I don't know why brunch, other than being novel and new and hey, we're going to try this out, is priced different. Because to me, if you price brunch exactly the same way that lunch is priced, I don't see why this would be any different. I think that's the biggest detractor from it. Because at its current price, I don't see the value in it, quite frankly. I thought the food was really good, and I love a good steak. And you got to remember, if you go to the main dining room and order a filet from Chops, that's about $20 right there. Now, you do get it served with a baked potato that comes with it, but that's like half the cost, essentially, of what we're talking about. So, to be fair, that's something to consider with it. And you do get the complimentary beverage. If you figure the Aperol Spritz would cost you individually, if you ordered it at a bar, about $10 or $12 pre-gratuity. Now you get the steak at 20, the drink at 30, you're kind of there almost. Plus you got all the other food to try from it. It just was like, I wanted to love brunch more than I actually did. Like I went into it thinking, finally, we're going to get a brunch option that I really, really love. And it'll be available on all the ships. It'll be a nice way to kind of change things up. I'm all for variety. Like I love different choices and someone who cruises a lot, boy, I would love any opportunity for something different. But unfortunately, I just didn't love it that much, especially for the price. Again, if you included the dining package, I'll go to brunch many times because I often like getting the dining package. It's a good way to try a couple of different restaurants, but it's a tough pill to swallow when it's quite that high of a surcharge on top of it, especially considering that I think if you're going to pay a surcharge for especially a restaurant, you're better off at places like, Izumi Hibachi or maybe even a supper club for that matter, because I think those are arguably superior experiences that give you more for that dollar you're spending. My prediction is that Royal Caribbean within a year or so, if not less, will probably change this and make some of these adjustments to it. And that's pretty common with Royal Caribbean. Listen, to their credit, they like to test and adjust. They put something out there, see what happens, get some feedback, and then make adjustments based on it. So I'll be curious to see what Royal Caribbean does going forward. All right, friends, time for listener emails. It's the part of the episode where I answer the emails you've sent me. Our first email is from Darren Kramer. Good morning, sir. Hope the coffee is hitting home. Longtime watcher, first-time commenter. So I don't think it's any big news story, but I just got an email from Royal Caribbean for my Allure sailing in February of 2028. Don't worry, I'm sailing back-to-back on Freedom in February 27, just an adventure beginning of January 26. Still need a few in between, but I digress. Back to the question and your thoughts about the itinerary for my sailing. Originally, Nassau to Jamaica to Labadee to Coco Key. Switched to Nassau to Coco Key to Jamaica to Labadee, possibly due to newer ship itineraries. Interesting why it changed so far out. Good question. Thanks for the email. A lot of times when they're changing itineraries that far out, they're playing a game of musical chairs with ports. Why they do it, Darren, it's a great question. I'll never understand it. In a lot of cases, it's just, I think, a matter of, they want to fit this ship in here and it makes more sense to move another ship out. But at the end of the day, and looking at it, I don't think you're actually losing a port. You're just getting a different order of ports, right? In which case, I just think they're just trying to mix things up there and see where they can fit everything in there. So, I don't think there's much to look at here, Darren. I think it's more just, a slight adjustment, nothing that really stands out. Next email is from Ben Vincent. I know this is a controversial subject, but I'm ready to pay off my cruise for the summer and really want to take off the prepaid gratuities, remove the daily gratuities when on board, and just pay the gratuities myself. Is this a wise idea? So, you're right. It's a very controversial subject because there's a lot more than meets the eye. On the surface, if you're talking about, listen, Royal Caribbean will charge you X for gratuities, you'd rather pay cash, that's certainly something that Royal Caribbean gives you to do that. There's two reasons why this becomes more controversial than anything else. Number one, and no offense to you, Ben, and I don't think this is you at all, but there are people who say they do this and they don't pay gratuities. They just remove the gratuities for whatever reason. They feel vindicated, validated, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, it's usually, sometimes it's under the guise of, money saving. They want to save costs on their vacation. Other times, they only want to, quote, tip the people that deserve it. And that's where the automatic gratuities kind of become more of an issue, because the automatic gratuities go towards, as I think many of you know, your stateroom attendant and your dining room staff. It also goes towards some of the back of the house people who you don't interact with, but still support what you do. And there's also things like a crew fund that automatic gratuities go towards. So when there's like crew parties and celebrations and things of that nature, or somebody incurs a problem in their personal lives, I've been told that they use this crew fund to help fund those kinds of things. And that's where the daily gratuities go for. So I'm just going to say this, Ben. I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm not the arbiter of that, and I'm not your dad, and I can't. I try not to go into too much of a preachy mode here. Personally, I prepay my gratuities, so that way I cover my bases, right? I do tip on top of that. Like when I was on Radiance of the Seas, I tipped, not counting like bar drinks, I'll usually tip $1 for every drink I order from, just because it's not so much about it's about just getting better service. Like if you tip them $1, they're going to notice you. But anyway, I digress. I take that back. 4 people I tip on Radiance of the Seas, extra, beyond the automatic gratuities. I always give my stateroom attendant extra money because my stateroom attendant deserves it. They always do a great job cleaning up, and I feel they deserve the most of it, so I always give them a larger tip there. I was in the main dining room every night of the cruise for dinner, and I tipped the waiter and the assistant waiter for their service. Figured they deserve a little something extra for taking care of me, being so nice. And the last person I tipped was the suite concierge. I wasn't staying in a suite, I was in an inside room. But as a Pinnacle Club member, I'm allowed to go access the suite lounge. And the concierge helped me out because on disembarkation, they escorted us off the ship first. And you don't have to. I don't know if anyone else actually did it, but I just feel like if you're going to, even though it's an included service, I just tip them. Thank you for doing that for me, and being a welcoming, smiling face. So there you go. Those are the 4 people I tip. That's generally, the suite concierge notwithstanding, I usually tip the wait staff in the dining room, or especially restaurants, and then the stateroom attendant. That's my thing. That's what Matt does. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's what I usually do. Now, if you're going to take the gratuities off because you want to pay them yourself, some people do appreciate, like, genuinely, they want to look the person in the eye and give them the money in hand and say, thank you for the hard work, right? I commend that. I'm just hoping that you're not using it as a way to, stiff anybody, in the sense that, like, if you don't, some people I think have the wrong expectations about, I understand what gratuity is academically when you're talking about it from the definition in the dictionary, but we're talking about what it is in the real world and what it has been here for a long, long time. And we can get into a whole debate, and we have in the past, about what gratuity should be in the future, but it is what it is today. So, if you want to hand it out yourself, more power to you. I don't think that's wrong. Just make sure you're covering the people that should be covered with it, and I think you're fine otherwise. So yeah, just something to keep in mind right there. Thank you, Ben, for the email. Our next email is from Adam. Last year we went on Independence of the Seas out of Southampton to Spain, Portugal, and Belgium. The food in the Windjammer was fantastic. My wife fell in love with the full British options they had on board in the buffet: beans and toast, British-style sausages, black pudding, fish and chips, etc. In addition to that, the quality was just top-notch throughout the buffet in general. This year we went on Symphony out of Galveston. We noticed the buffet in the Windjammer was significantly different. Quality even seemed to lack compared to Indy. My question is, does Royal Caribbean typically switch up the cuisines to different options based on the port it's going from, or even the ship itself? They do, actually, to some extent. There's not like, they don't revamp it completely. Outside of Asia, I won't count that. But yes, they do have a different buffet layout, or slightly different options depending on the guest makeup. Certainly, when you cruise out of the UK, and I've experienced this myself, Adam, yes, the buffet options are going to differ compared to a cruise out of, say, Galveston, or anywhere in the US for that matter. I've been told this happens also if you have a heavy assortment of guests from a particular region. It's not, that would be unusual, because Royal Caribbean typically is dominated by North Americans to begin with. And unless there's, like, Asia's probably the exception. We're not going to talk about that. But outside of that, generally speaking, they try to lean in that direction. I assume, I've not cruised out of Australia, but I assume just like the cruises out of the UK, there might be some more Aussie-friendly or familiar foods over there, perhaps. Certainly, you also see that in the drink selections. when you're sailing from a certain region, they might have an extra couple beers for folks that are from that area. So yes, your observation is astute. I don't want to like over dramatize and be like, yeah, if you go on a cruise out of this place, the cuisine is totally different. I don't think they go quite that far, but if they do see a different makeup, they will actually change up some of the options within the Windjammer to make it more friendly for those folks, so they find something that they enjoy. So hope that answers your question there. Our next email is from Mason. Hey Matt, my family went on Oasis of the Seas last January. My dad earned casino free cruises. Now we're trying to actually use one and want to go on Oasis class at minimum, but the only Oasis class offers we're getting are Symphony of the Seas out of Galveston. We would be willing to go out of Galveston for the sailing, but the dates the offers are during his busy season. How long will they keep sending offers, and should we book different cruises on the offers or hold out and wait for an Oasis class that works? Yeah, this is the downside to the casino program. Like, the casino is great because you get quote-unquote free cruises. I mean, it's not free. We're not going to go into that. But the offers can be very valuable. But in my experience, unless you're going to the higher, very high tiers of it, your offers oftentimes are for certain sailings that clearly are for a reason. They tend to be older ships, off-season sailings, older ships in off-season sailings, and then also like more exotic destinations, longer sailings, things that basically they use the casino offers in a lot of cases to fill in some of the gaps. Like, they're not going to offer you Star of the Seas over spring break because they don't need to. They're going to have plenty of people who are going to pay for it. The casino kind of fills in some of those gaps there. So I understand what you're looking for with that. So number one, it's a gamble, no pun intended, with what you'll actually get. Number two is when you're looking at this, when you get an offer, and I went through this myself, if I get the offer, should I redeem it? Because otherwise, if I don't redeem it, Royal Caribbean's like, well, this person clearly doesn't want a free cruise, so we're going to not send them any more offers. I don't think their system works that way. I've certainly passed off many, many offers, still gotten some in the future, but it's a black box system. No one quite understands how the offers work, but I would simply say this. It's nice to get the free offers, right, that are out there, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. There's not much you can do about it. I wouldn't sail specifically for the sake of sailing. You could, but I feel like, it sounds like that's not really an option for you, because to just keep taking advantage of every single offer you get. And by the way, when you do take advantage of one of those offers, the unsaid expectation is you'll actually gamble on that cruise. That's why they give them to you. It might not really work out from your system. I think actually, quite frankly, passing on them is not the end of the world. I think you'll still probably get them. But as for like how likely it is to get an Oasis class at a time that works for you, it's going to be tough, especially for those free offers. That's very rare. I think you're better off, if you're going to try to do that, for your dad to try to earn an instant certificate when he is gambling on a ship to, earn that while on board. That's far more likely. You can actually go up to the casino host, see the available sailings to figure out how many points you would have to earn on that sailing to qualify for that one. But as for the freebies you get in the mail, it's really just anyone's guess. And I wish I could give you more insight into it, except there really isn't more insight onto it. So, yeah. Next email is from Peter, who writes, "Hi Matt, thanks for your videos. I'm based in the UK and I found them very helpful over the last few years of taking family cruises on Royal Caribbean. I was just wondering if you had seen Royal Caribbean had made a ship change in the UK for 27, switching out Mariner for Freedom. As someone who booked on Mariner, we got the email a couple days ago. We got the standard option, switch to the new ship, transfer our booking to a new cruise, or cancel free of charge. All pretty standard, and it seemed an easy option just to switch ships, in many ways an upgrade. However, and here's the issue, Royal Caribbean is not guaranteeing the same stateroom choice. I totally understand that there'll be different numbers on different staterooms on the new ship, so this kind of makes sense. And I can see why they would want to have some kind of flexibility. In our case, we book connecting cabins, and Royal Caribbean will not tell us if we can have connecting rooms unless we agree to transfer our booking. For us, having connecting rooms is an essential part of the cruise experience, young children, etc. And we paid a premium to book connecting rooms and choose their location. In essence, the decision is a gamble with our deposits. Transfer our £600, and we might get what we want, but if we don't, then it's our problem, and we choose to cancel after allocation on the new ship, we would lose our deposit. I know that cruise operators retain a lot of flexibility for themselves in their terms and conditions, but is it normal for them to play so fast and loose with transferring to an equivalent cabin to put all the risk on their customers to offer such a poor customer experience? A complaint is in with our travel agent to try to get a resolution, but it already leaves a bitter taste in terms of how they've dealt with us. Thanks again for your content that you put out there. Hopefully, just a minor blip for us." Peter, interesting. I was thinking about this as I'm reading your email. And my only thought is, I guess, based on your situation, and I understand exactly where you're coming from because I also have kids and we want to get connected to cabins. I guess what I would have told you, my recommendation would have been that when you got the offer, when they say, hey, listen, they're switching ships, you should have canceled free of charge. Cancel free of charge, take a step back, wait for the new sailings to come online to book, and then go back into it. That way you can you don't have to commit yourself without knowing what you're committing yourself to. That would seem to be the best option. Now, of course, here's the downside of that little trick right there. The price could be substantially different because I suspect they were going to honor your price on Mariner for Freedom for a like-to-like cabin, but the issue here is the room choice, right? Getting 2 rooms next to each other. I strongly believe, Peter, if I had to make a bet, I bet you, because you're doing this so far out, this is for 2027, not 2026. I really don't think you would have had a problem getting the room configuration you would have liked because it's so far out there. There would have been plenty of options and availability. But it's your reservation. It's your money. It's not my money. So I would have told you, you know what? Then you cancel and then rebook under the new terms there. I mean, you might have to pay more money for it. That's the downside to it. But I think it sounds like you'd rather have that flexibility in being able to, pull back than basically go all in and feel like you're kind of stuck, so to speak, if the room setup isn't exactly what you were looking for there. As for, the terms and conditions, things of that nature, I mean, yeah, I think the nice thing is they do give that option out, right? You can transfer to a different ship or cancel free of charge. So I do like they give you that. It's not like they're forcing you to continue with it. So in your situation, I would have told you to cancel, wait, and then rebook, and hopefully the price wouldn't be too much different than you would have paid. Heck, maybe it would have been cheaper. You never know. But yeah, it's I understand where you're coming from though, because at the end of the day, I think in your situation, the worst case scenario, in my opinion, would be, based on what you're telling me, would be that you stay on Freedom and then you end up with a room choice that doesn't work for you. I think that would be a problem. Whereas if you canceled and now you don't want to pay whatever they're charging for Freedom, well, at least you have your money back and there's no harm, no foul in the sense of financially anyway. I can't speak for your love for cruising and you would prefer to go on Royal Caribbean, but I still feel like that's the lesser of two evils there. So, Peter, thank you for the email. And last email today is from the president of the Canadian chapter of the Matt Hochberg fan club, current membership 32, by the way. I didn't realize we had 32, let alone 2. Anyway, hi, Matt. Read your blog every day. Follow your podcast as well. Always the best source of all things Royal Caribbean. Thank you. We're currently selling on Adventure this season. We met with the loyalty ambassador to discuss the point system and how children will assume their parent status if they reside in the same household and are under the age of 18. There has been a lot of speculation as to what the future holds for the ever-increasing number of Pinnacles, Diamond Plus, and Diamond members. I've attached an email I received from Crown and Anchor outlining the actual policy Royal Caribbean has in place to control excessive growth in the program. You may have covered this in a previous blog article, so forgive me if you have. Royal says they have had this policy in place for quite some time, but have decided to start enforcing it. And what the email basically says is that if your daughter is Diamond through your status while she's under 18, she will share your status up to that point. However, once she turns 18, her account becomes independent. At that time, she will no longer retain her tier automatically. Her status will be based on the actual number of cruise points she actually has earned. So in this scenario, if she only has 60 points, when she turns 18, her tier would reflect that, which would be Emerald, even if she previously enjoyed Diamond status while linked to you. Additionally, once a child turns 18, they are removed from the parent-guardian relationship in the program, and their account reflects only their individual cruise history moving forward. And the email goes on to say that we understand it can be confusing, especially since benefits are shared during childhood, but the transition to individual status at adulthood has been a long-standing policy. Okay, well, this is news to me, first of all, because I was not aware of this. Number two, this long-standing policy is, I'm going to say, incorrect. If it has been a policy, you're right, president of the fan club in Canada, it's never been enforced, to my knowledge anyway, that's been the case. So what the email is saying, what this person is saying, and they sent me a copy of an email, I don't have an actual, I don't think this person's making this up, but the email, I don't have like a header or anything like this. All I have is the person's, like the body of the email. So we'll take them at their word. That's all I'll say on this. It's very interesting because yes, and I've said this for years and years and years, if you have a kid and you're Diamond, right, and your kid is born, they become a Diamond member automatically. And if they never go on another cruise again, they still retain their Diamond status forever because they're your child. When they turn 18, their point total will be 0, right? Because they haven't been on a cruise themselves, but they get their parent status. I've read through this email like 3 times now offline. I had to pause the recording to think about this. And the only thing I can think of is that this would be one of many examples of Royal Caribbean's written policy versus their actual policy, like what's enforced, chair hog policy, dress codes, things of that nature, where like it's written down somewhere, but whether or not it's actually enforced or applied is a whole different story. I don't know. This is news to me because I've been told for years and years and years, once you're diamond or whatever status you have, if you get it from your parents, you retain it, your point total will still be 0. So like whatever you actually sailed from. So like as an example, if you are diamond and your kids, have only sailed on 2 cruises and they never cruise again, they would have to earn enough points to move to Diamond Plus on their own after they turn 18, right? And so forth, and even to Pinnacle for that matter. And for what it's worth, for Pinnacle status, by the way, kids don't inherit Pinnacle status. So my kids are still Diamond Plus. They have to earn that on their own, and they're well on their way. Don't worry about that. That being said, I don't know. This is a very interesting email. It's the first I've heard of it. And it's kind of interesting because I could swear, and I'm sure maybe some of our podcast listeners can attest to it, that their kids, once they turned 18, retain their Crown and Anchor loyalty status if they had less points in actuality than their tier indicates. You know what I mean? I could be wrong, and maybe I've been telling the wrong thing for years and years and years. It's entirely possible, but that's not been my understanding of the program back then. Anyway, interesting nonetheless. Thank you for the email, and we now have something to look into. That's a very curious case right there. So thanks for that. And we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger here on this episode. Thanks for listening. Of course, you can always email me your questions, matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com, MATT@royalcaribbeanblog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.